Welcome, traveler. As you settle in for the night, let your mind wander far from the present moment. Find a comfortable position, close your eyes if you wish, and allow your thoughts to soften like warm sand slipping between your fingers. Tonight, we drift back in time, across burning deserts and ancient mountain passes, to an empire of grandeur, mystery, and silent endurance. This is the story of ancient Persia. We will explore 4 quiet chapters from a world long gone where kings ruled from jeweled thrones. Holy flames never flickered out, and messages crossed thousands of miles on foot. You will walk the royal road, feel the pressures of a life defined by precision and peril. You'll witness the slow fall of a great king, learn of a city burned by wine and ambition, and finally pass through silken halls filled with incense, tablets, and whispered power. Let this be your journey into the slow rhythm of an empire, as mighty as it was fragile. Segment 1. Why it sucked to be a royal road courier. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a wide, well-packed road that stretches farther than your eye can see. Beneath your feet, the earth is dusty and cracked, worn smooth by the feet of 1,000 messengers who have passed before you. To your left, a stone marker carved with inscriptions tells you how far you are from Susatha, center of the empire. To your right, the sun is just beginning to rise, throwing long golden shadows across the road. It will be hot soon. It's very hot. You are a royal courier, one of the king's swift messengers. Your duty is to carry messages across this vast empire from Susa to Sardis, from Persepolis to Ecbatana. You wear a simple tunic, a leather satchel tied tightly at your side. In it, a sealed scroll bearing the image of the royal seal. A winged disc, the Fair of Ahar. The royal road was one of the marvels of the Achaemenid Empire. It stretched for over 1,500 miles, from the Aegean Sea all the way to the Persian heartland. Along the way stood royal stations, west stations, where fresh horses, food, and rest could be found. But for you, rest is fleeting. Your orders are to ride day and night. Time is precious, and any delay is a failure. Yes, the pressure is constant. The king demands that his messages travel faster than the wind. Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor darkness of night shall stay these couriers, they say. And you begin to understand why. You ride for hours, your legs stiff in the saddle, your eyes squinting into the distance for signs of bandits or delays. Bandits are a real threat. Though the royal road is guarded, much of it cuts through remote land. There are stretches of desert where the wind howls and no one travels but you. You keep a short blade close. If you're caught, your only hope is to flee. To be robbed is shameful. To lose a message is a disgrace. Food is simple and cold flatbread wrapped in linen, a flask of sour wine, a few dried figs. At the relay stations, you swap your horse for a fresh one. The stable boys greet you with sleepy eyes, and the grooms tighten the girth with practiced hands. You say little, there is no time. You pass through changing lands, rock-strewn hills, golden fields of barley, high mountains where snow clings to jagged peaks, even in summer. Every day is different. Every day is the same. You learn to ignore pain, to ride through exhaustion. You begin to recognize the scent of a desert morning, the sharp perfume of tamarisk trees, the brittle stillness before a sandstorm. You do not sleep much. You dream while riding. Your mind hums with the rhythm of hooves and the sound of your own heartbeat. You carry news of battles, births, deaths, and decrees. You are the bloodline of empire, a single pulse in a giant beating heart. But there is little glory. No songs are sung for you. When the message is delivered, you are expected to turn around and return just as swiftly. Your name is not remembered. But your failure, if it occurs, will be. And so, you continue. The royal road seems endless. It stretches beyond time. And yet you carry on one hoofbeat at a time. Segment 2. The fall of Darius III now. Let the hoofbeats fade. Let the dust of the road settle, and imagine instead the quiet chambers of a palace in turmoil. Polished stone beneath your feet, pale light drifting through latticed windows, and the weight of power heavy in the air. You are in the twilight of an empire. The great Achaemenid dynasty, rulers of Persia for centuries, stands on trembling ground. And at its center is a king many did not expect to wear the crown, Darius III. Darius was not born to rule. He was a satrap, a provincial governor, a man of noble blood but distant from the throne. Yet through courtly maneuvering and military necessity, he rose. The previous king, Artaxerxes III, had died suddenly. Perhaps poisoned, perhaps not, the court whispered. His son met the same fate. The path to power was treacherous, but Darius, known before as Codomanus, emerged as a compromise, a ruler acceptable to the court's many factions. But fate did not grant him peace. To the west, across the sea and mountains, a young Macedonian king stirred a man, named Alexander. Not yet called the Great, not yet cloaked in legend. Just a warrior with a claim, an army, and an appetite for conquest. His campaign into Asia Minor began like a whisper, but soon it became a roar. Darius first heard of the invasion as a distant matter, perhaps even dismissively. Persia had fought off countless Greek incursions before, but Alexander was different. He advanced rapidly, defeating Persian satraps at the Battle of Granicus, then again more decisively at Issus. Imagine Darius, now truly alarmed, gathering his army, the largest in the world at the time. Tens of thousands of soldiers, archers, cavalry, charioteers, immortals in brilliant robes. He marched to meet the Macedonian in battle, determined to crush this upstart once and for all. At Gaugamela, in a flat plain chosen for its suitability for cavalry, Darius positioned his army. He had elephants, he had scythed chariots, he had a force that dwarfed Alexander's in size. But numbers are not everything. Alexander's tactics were fluid and bold. His phalanxes held. His cavalry pierced the Persian lines. The dust was thick, the cries distant and muffled. At the center of it all, Darius watched as his army faltered. He fled. It was the second time he had done so. At Issus, he had left behind his own family, his wife, mother, and children, who were captured but treated with surprising respect by Alexander. At Gaugamela, the retreat was final. He rode eastward, away from the capital, deeper into the empire's folds. But loyalty was waning. Satraps saw the writing on the wall. Alexander pursued not just for conquest, but for legitimacy. To defeat Persia, he needed to capture the king, and Darius became a fugitive in his own land, stripped of power, abandoned by his generals, and finally betrayed by Bessus, a once loyal satrap of Bactria. They stabbed him in the night and left him to die. When Alexander finally found Darius, the king was already gone. He had died alone on the floor of a cart, his lifeblood seeping into the dust. Alexander, so the stories say, wept. He covered Darius's body with his own cloak and ordered him buried in the royal tombs of Persepolis with all due honor, a gesture not just of respect, but of strategy. He would become king not by conquest alone, but by continuity. And so Darius III passed from the world. The last Achaemenid king, swept away by the rising tide of Macedon. His story is not one of great triumphs, but of slow unraveling, a man caught between the past and an unstoppable future. Now, let us leave the battlefield behind. Let the dust settle once more. In the next chapter of our journey, we will explore what remains, not in blood or memory, but in the stones and shadows of a once mighty city. Now, let your thoughts drift eastward, toward a city once carved from the dreams of kings, a place of pillared halls, shining stone, and sacred ceremony. You are standing at the base of a wide stone stairway, its steps shallow and worn, built to be ascended with grace. Before you rises a terrace, vast and silent. Wind brushes past, carrying the dry scent of dust and sun-warmed limestone. This is Persepolis, or rather what remains of it. In its time, Persepolis was not the heart of daily governance. That role belonged to Susa or Ecbatana. Instead, Persepolis was symbolic, ceremonial, the spiritual and imperial stage upon which kings of Persia reminded the world and themselves of their divine authority. Founded by Darius the Great and expanded by his successors, Persepolis was a place of ritual and spectacle. Once a year, the king celebrated Nowruz, the Persian New Year, here. Delegations from across the empire would arrive, their garments bright with the patterns of distant lands. Gold, spices, and fine cloth were carried as tribute. Reliefs carved into the city's walls still show them. Medes, Babylonians, Lydians, Ethiopians all, stepping gently, solemnly, toward the royal court. Imagine the Great Apadana, a vast audience hall with 72 stone columns rising like forest trunks into the sky. The floor cool beneath your sandals. The ceiling, long lost to time, would have been a lattice of cedar beams from Lebanon, once darkened with age and smoke. The walls glowed with the soft flicker of oil lamps, their shadows dancing across carved griffins and bulls. The king sat high above, robed in embroidered linen, his beard oiled and ringed. Behind him, attendants stood silent. Before him, the empire came to bow. But what time builds, time and ambition can unmake. When Alexander the Great reached Persepolis in 330 BCE, it had already begun to fade. Though rich and respected, it no longer pulsed with the political life it once had. Still, it was the ceremonial soul of the Achaemenid Empire. Alexander entered the city not with rage, but with awe. He allowed his men to explore its halls, storerooms packed with treasures, silver ingots, gold bars, fine textiles wrapped in cedar wood, the fortune of centuries hoarded in vaults. And then one night came fire. The exact cause remains debated. Some say it was deliberate, a calculated act of symbolic destruction. Others claim it began as a drunken revel, stoked by pride and wine. Perhaps it was both. The Greek historian Plutarch tells of a woman, Thais, who urged Alexander to set fire to the palace in revenge for the Persian burning of Athens a century earlier. Whether vengeance or vanity, the torches were lit. Imagine the fire beginning small, licking at the wooden eaves of the treasury. Wind catches the flame. Oil-fed lamps sputter and burst. The cedar beams overhead groan, splinter, collapse. Smoke rolls across the hilltop. Flames reflect off gold panels. The carved reliefs' quiet faces of tribute bearers begin to crack, then blacken. When the embers cooled, Persepolis was a hollowed shell. Columns still stood, stubborn and proud, but the spirit of the city had gone. Alexander later expressed regret. Whether sincere or strategic, no one can say. Today, what remains of Persepolis are ruins majestic in their silence. Staircases carved with gentle precision, bases of columns wide as ancient trees, reliefs of men who bowed to kings long turned to dust. And through it all, the quiet sense of memory, as if the stones themselves are trying to remember. As you imagine this place, now empty of its priests, its courtiers, its kings know that time has smoothed its edges, even as it holds its stories. Let us now leave Persepolis behind, its embers long cooled. Our final step tonight takes us into another part of the empire. Not the dusty roads or ruined cities, but the quiet order of the palace at Susa, where immortals walked marble halls, and the empire's heartbeat in papyrus wax and whispered words. Now picture yourself far from the sun-scorched ruins of Persepolis. The air here is softer, humid, and fragrant. You stand before another palace, less famous perhaps, but just as vital to the daily breath of empire. This is Susa, a city older than empires. Once Elamite, now Persian, its roots run deep beneath your feet, and the palace here does not command attention through towering columns or dramatic staircases. Instead, its beauty lies in subtlety, in stillness, in the rustle of linen robes against polished stone, in the murmur of scribes, in the scent of cedar chests and jasmine drifting through a shaded garden. You enter the palace grounds through a colonnaded gate. The floor beneath you is laid with glazed bricks, cool to the touch. their surface painted with lions and lotus blossoms. A gentle breeze stirs the heavy curtains that shade the entrance, and you are met not by fanfare, but by quiet order. Inside, life moves according to rhythm, not spectacle. This was the administrative heart of the Achaemenid Empire. Persepolis hosted ceremonies. Susa was where the empire thought, wrote, and remembered. Every decree, every shipment, every tax, and treaty passed through these rooms. In one chamber, scribes sit cross-legged on woven mats, styluses in hand. Some scratch cuneiform into clay tablets. Others press reed pens onto papyrus. Bronze oil lamps flicker above them, casting gentle shadows on the floor. The air smells faintly of ink, warm wax, and the resin used to seal official scrolls. Imagine the whisper of voices, low and precise, shuffle of tablets being passed from one pair of hands to another. This is where the hum of empire lives. Beyond the scribes' rooms lies the royal gardena, paradata, or paradise. You step onto its gravel path. Cypress trees line your walk. Water channels, fed by hidden aqueducts, trickle softly nearby. The pool at the center is still, reflecting the changing sky above. Songbirds chatter in the trees, and petals from flowering shrubs drift gently on the breeze. Here, courtiers take careful walks. Officials pause in the shade to consult documents. Even the royal family may appear daughters of the king, moving quietly between pillars, attended by servants. They wear dresses of finely spun linen and jewelry of lapis and gold. Their voices are hushed, their movements practiced. And then, the immortals. The king's guard, always present, though rarely noticed. They move like shadows perfectly dressed, identically armed. Their spears gleam, but they do not speak, called immortals by outsiders, because their number never appears to change when one falls, another takes his place. In Susa, they are simply there. They're like columns, like wind. Somewhere deeper in the palace, royal correspondence is being reviewed. Ambassadors from Lydia or Bactria wait patiently to be seen. A court astronomer adjusts a bronze instrument on a balcony, charting stars and preparing dates for ritual. You feel the weight of order, here not oppressive but constant. The entire palace hums with protocol. With patterns, the deep, deliberate heartbeat of administration. Even the king, when present, does not command the same stage he might in Persepolis. Here he listens, he signs, he sends. Susa is a mind, not a mouth. It is where ideas are shaped, law is given form, and the vast empire is gently steered. As night falls over the palace, the gardens grow cool. Lamps are lit. The city outside the palace gates quiets, its merchants and craftsmen settling into their homes. Inside, the scribes finish their work. Clay tablets are stored in labeled jars. Scrolls are sealed with wax. Guards are posted. The garden falls into shadow, and the palace sleeps. Just as you might now, in the comfort of your own time, your own room far from the deserts and duties of ancient kings. You've wandered through courtyards and battlefields, from the saddle of a breathless courier to the throne room of fading kings. You've walked the royal road, watched Persepolis burn, and breathed the ordered air of Susa. Ancient Persia was a world of endurance and elegance, built on labor and legacy. It was both vast and intimate, empires shaped by the sweat of messengers, the ink of scribes, the fire of ambition, and the silence of gardens. Let the empire fade gently into dusk. Let the wind from the Zagros Mountains cool the fires of your thoughts. And as the stars wheel slowly over the ruins of Persepolis, may your dreams carry you softly through time. Good night, traveler. Sleep well.